Very much like in Palestine, Western governments and international corporate media have intentionally covered up and masked what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, but for different reasons. In the DRC, governments, especially Western governments, multinational corporations, and international corporate media have all played a collective role in suppressing what's been going on in the DRC for nearly 3 decades now. And the reason they've been doing this is very simple. The more they hide it, the more resources and wealth they can plunder and steal. The complete death toll figures in the DRC have been deficiently documented, but many sources cite over 6 million Congolese killed since the start of the First War in 1996 and over 7 million Congolese displaced, and according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, more than 25 million Congolese are currently in acute need of humanitarian assistance. The United States, the UK, Belgium, France, Israel, China, and so on are all responsible for funding slavery, rape, terrorism, mass killings, child exploitation, economic paralysis, etc. in the DRC. There are multiple ways in which nations, especially Western countries, have not only benefited from, but actively played a role in the evils and terrorist attacks being committed against the Congolese people. The first way that the West benefited from and actively played a role in the evil and terrorist attacks against the DRC and its people was through colonialism. In the 1800s, it was under one of the most evil and despised dictators in human history, Belgium's Leopold II, that Congo became colonized. Under the Belgian devil, the entire population of the DRC was enslaved, raped, maimed, tortured, terrorized, etc. Leopold II claimed the entirety of the DRC, which is currently one of the world's largest countries in terms of total land area, as his own private property, and despite enslaving Africans and profiting from their forced labor to extract and collect rubber, ivory, and other materials, he ironically named the area the Congo Free State. To this day, 64 years later, since the DRC declared its independence from Belgium in 1960, Belgium's monarchy has yet to issue a formal apology to the people of the DRC for its brutal 75-plus year history of colonial terrorism of the Congolese people. Some believe that the main reason for this is because of reparations, meaning if a state like Belgium apologizes to a nation like the DRC for all of the colonial terror and evil acts it committed, the process of acquiring economic reparations will be easier for the aggrieved country. A second way that the West benefits from and actively plays a role in the evil and terrorist attacks against the DRC and its people is by both funding and training groups that either initiate or precipitate the violence. The Eastern DRC is the territory where over 100 armed rebel groups are fighting for a chance to capture mineral-rich areas and illegally mine resources such as gold, coltan, copper, cobalt, tin, zinc, etc. Some of these rebel groups have abducted Congolese children to fight in their army. One of these rebel groups is called March 23 Movement, or simply known as M23, which the Congolese government accuses Rwanda of funding and which Rwanda has denied. Human Rights Watch reported that M23 is one of the more notable groups that carry out unjust killings, rape, and other war crimes. How can a country like Rwanda, which has 1/89th the land area of the DRC and 1/7th the population, make a country 89 times its size unstable. Through Western intervention and military aid and training, Rwanda receives millions of dollars in military aid from the EU, US, and UK. Even on the Congolese side, there's Western involvement. There are about 1,000 Romanian mercenaries for hire to help defend the eastern city of Goma from rebel groups, including M23. And France has allowed its anti-diplomatic and retired French military terrorists to train the Congolese military, who have an incentive to keep the war going so they can keep getting paid. One French military terrorist said, quote, "If Rwandan troops do not withdraw, more attacks will follow. We're going to strike, 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 strike." While all of this violence and chaos happens, the resources and wealth are siphoned away from the country and into Western hands. Congo's finance minister stated that the DRC loses at least $1 billion a year due to gold and other resources being smuggled out of the DRC to neighboring Rwanda to sell to the West. The UK has been watching its criticism of Rwanda out of self-interest. In an unprincipled arrangement, it's trying to deport people seeking asylum in the UK to Rwanda in exchange for paying the Rwandan government £220 million with another £150 million over the next 3 years. The third way that the West benefits from and actively plays a role in the evil and terrorist attacks against the DRC and its people is through its corporations. Corporations, including American-based ones like Google, Apple, Dell, Microsoft, and Tesla, benefit from forced Congolese labor, which comprises of child labor. 5 technology companies were sued and taken to a federal appeals court in the US over using child labor, including child labor that resulted in the deaths of children in the DRC. All 5 received vital materials, including cobalt, for their lithium-ion batteries for use in electronics like mobile phones and electric vehicles. 2/3 of the world's cobalt supply comes from the DRC. Unsurprisingly, in a white supremacist and hyper-capitalist country like the United States, in a 3-0 vote, the Federal Court of Appeals found in favor of the 5 tech companies, Google, Apple, Dell, Microsoft, and Tesla, and against the African victims and their families. One of the 3 appeals judges, Circuit Judge Noemi Rao, even said, and you can't make this up, that these billion and trillion-dollar corporations, quote, did not have the power to stop child labor. This is further evidence that America has one of the most corrupt and biased, quote-unquote, justice systems in the world. Entertainingly, it wasn't until China started doing business in Africa, and especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that the Western countries like the United States, Canada, Britain, France, Germany, Australia, etc., began howling about quote-unquote labor rights. In February 2024, Congolese protesters, tired of Western terrorism and meddling in their country, burned tires on the flags of both the United States and Belgium in front of Western embassies and the United Nations offices. They chanted, quote, "Leave our country, we don't want your hypocrisy." The protesters charged the West with arming and training Rwanda, which allegedly backs M23. Rwanda has denied these charges. The rebel group at the time was advancing toward the eastern DRC city of Goma. To date, M23 has captured at least 100 towns and villages. One Congolese protester said, quote, "The Westerners are behind the looting of our country. Rwanda doesn't work alone, so they must leave our country." Months later, on May 19, 2024, Approximately 50 people, including 3 Americans, were caught in the DRC in taking part in an alleged coup attempt against the government. They attacked the home of Economy Minister Vital Kamerhe with Zaire flags, the name of the country before it became the Democratic Republic of Congo. The 3 Americans claimed that their lives were threatened and that they were forced to take part in the attempted coup. All 50 have been standing trial since June and faced the death penalty over charges of attack, terrorism, illegal possession of weapons and munitions of war, attempted assassination, criminal association, murder, and financing of terrorism. All of this has been going on while the DRC has been facing a spreading Mpox epidemic since May 2022. In the DRC, it was traced to the Congo province, but the virus itself was first recorded in London, England, and from London it spread throughout the world, including in the DRC. The smallpox-related virus is zoonotic, meaning it can be transferred from animals to humans. It's also spread through human-to-human contact and even material contaminated with the virus like clothing, bed sheets, towels, utensils, etc. The virus is prevalent in Central and West Africa due to the densely forested regions. According to the World Health Organization, since 2022, over 21,000 cases and more than 1,000 deaths have been reported. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.